Ambient escapism in Czech tea rooms. In communist Czechoslovakia, there were two musical revolutions. The first one was loud. They were rock bands inspired by the avant-garde experiments of Frank Zappa and the Velvet Underground. The most famous were the Plastic People of the Universe. The band were heavily censored, altogether banned from releasing music in the 60s and even imprisoned in the 1970s. Their civil disobedience was one of the toppling dominoes that led to the fall of communism in Czechoslovakia over a decade later in 1989. But in the shadow of these events, a quieter revolution began to take place. Pavel Richter, a former active member of the country's prog rock scene, had retreated into solitude by the early 1980s, freshly inspired by new ideas that were being carefully smuggled into the country. Eastern philosophy, New Age thinking, and boldly minimalist music from Freppanino and Steve Reich. He experimented with tape loop recordings throughout the 1980s, frequently working with a loose collective of fellow musicians that became known as the Richter Band, culminating with the 1990 album Smetana. New ideas, new ways of life, and new spiritualities were flowing into post-revolution Czechoslovakia. Curiously, they found their home in the country's tea rooms. Tea rooms, as opposed to the rowdier bars, became de facto salons of alternative music and thinking. The music performed at them was made to be consumed at a slower pace, much of it inspired by the Richter Band's gentle experiments. Churches, monasteries, and other spiritual sites also became venues for performance. Musicians improvised with homemade instruments as their meditative audiences pondered an uncertain future. These spaces were temporary autonomous zones where the shifting tectonics of geopolitics were briefly held at bay. Listen to an hour of Czech tea room ambient music, selected by NCS. Link in bio.